I always laugh when I see people have this setup where they're sitting in lounge chairs or recliners, just kind of leaned back. Like, how effective is that?
That's sick. No, that's
pretty comfy.
Not that these chairs are super comfy. So isn't comfy, but something about sitting in a lazy boy where you got a microphone in your face
Cracking
would be, yeah, that would be A1. But I mean, some people, because there's like, I don't know if you might know the name. I have no idea. Sabrina's told me about it, but it's like a girl who does podcasts, but like she lays in her bed and like her guests lay in the bed with her, and I'm like, that's a little weird.
I think
like,
that's Bobby Altoff.
Maybe. I have no idea what the name is. Like it's been a long time since her and I even talked about it, but it was just something that she was like, watch this, and this is how every like podcast that she does, this is how she does it. I'm like, I think she was interesting
in bed with Drake for that one.
Yeah. I'm like, that's interesting. So I'm like,
yeah, I don't think that'd work for me. I think you'd have to be a girl to pull that off.
Yeah, and then you'd have to have the right people to go on there, because I'm sure there's like a lot of backlash where it's just like, even if you're just like on there for a podcast, or you're talking about whatever you're talking about, not gonna a lot of people, or there's not gonna be a lot of people that are gonna go home, tell them that story to their significant other, and they're gonna be happy that they were just laying in a bed with another person.
Well, I think she was married while she was doing that.
Oh, I have no idea, but
we're getting a little out of my wheelhouse here, but I want to say I think she's divorced now. Her whole shtick with that was it was kind of a spoof. So she would go in trying to make it uncomfortable, and it was kind of a comedic effect that way.
Okay, well, it was
effective. She took off.
I say she probably hit the nail on the head with that then. But
yeah, I don't know how that started. I think the Drake one is when she came across my radar.
Yeah, it's like, how many did she have that went under the radar before Drake came on there, and then she really blew up.
Yeah, podcasts are kind of a saturated market now. I think they've always been.
Yeah, I mean,
go back to 2008.
Yeah, and I think, well, it's like, vlog was a big thing, but like it was a thing back in the day, and then all of a sudden, now they kind of subsided, and now they're coming back, and it's like full swing. Like they're huge, and certain people have them, and it's amazing the kind of viewership, and even like the sponsors that they get, this and that. It's crazy.
Have you seen Sam Sulek?
No.
Dude's jacked. He's taking some Mexican supplements, so he's shredded. But that's all he does is just film himself at the gym and put it out there like the old school vlog. It's not highly produced, doesn't have a ton of back end work, and it just took off.
Yeah, and it's like I saw a thing where YouTube started in 2005, and I'm like, it's almost 20 years ago, and it's like how far it's like where it started to where it is now. It's crazy. Like people like make a living just off of YouTube, like, and I think a lot of people think it's easy. I think a lot of people think that, you get your own channel, you do outrageous things, you do this or that to get viewerships. And they just think as soon as you do it, then you're going to become an internet sensation, and you're going to have all these guests and all this crazy stuff you're going to do, or whatever your channel is all about. You're going to try and do that and think it's going to take off, but then they do it for, a month or two maybe, and then they're getting like 5 views on each video, and they think, oh, this isn't shit, and then they crap out, and you stick with it. That's when it goes somewhere. Like no one just gets a podcast that starts, on fire overnight, unless you're somebody already established. Like I'm assuming, I'm just going to use Logan Paul as an example. It's like he was already somebody before he started his podcast. I'm assuming. I don't think he started as a podcaster. It's like he was a YouTuber, and now he's like a face known around the world, and he has his Impulsive podcast. But I think that came after he was like an internet sensation YouTuber. It didn't come first, I would think.
I think it's absolutely harder to start off with a podcast from obscurity. Because nobody knows you.
Exactly.
So why should we're hearing your opinion on things? Why should we take that?
Yeah, it's like I have no idea how long Joe Rogan's been doing his podcast, but that's like one of the biggest ones out there.
But he still had Fear Factor back in, so at least you can kind of pull people in. That was slightly.
That was how I first found Joe Rogan. Was like I would watch Fear Factor with my parents as a kid, and I loved that show.
Great show.
It was awesome.
Still stands up.
And then because they dropped it or they canceled it, whatever they did. And then they finally brought it back. I remember like years later, I'm like, oh shit, they're bringing Fear Factor back, and Joe Rogan was doing it. And then I think after that, they dropped it again. I think Ludacris got a hold of it. I think he was the host for a little bit, but
not as good.
I didn't watch it, Ludacris. At that point, I I was out of my parents' house. I wasn't watching cable TV, so I didn't watch it anymore.
Yeah, who's
But-
still watching cable TV nowadays?
Oh, there's actually quite a few people that like I'll talk to about like, you know, just how it starts out. The conversation usually is how streaming and all that stuff it's basically cable TV now. It's like you're paying for every subscription out there. So because they have shows you want to watch, or they have, you know, and you pay more for no ads, and then all these subscriptions keep getting more expensive. It's like Netflix every 6 months likes to raise their rates, or they're like, you can't share your password with anybody because now they're going to start cracking down on that, and so that you can get more money from them. And I'm like, from a business standpoint, it's smart, but it's like as a consumer, you're like,
Oh, you're just getting fucked.
yeah,
Because you have to have Paramount. You gotta watch Yellowstone. You gotta watch 1883, and then you gotta go to Netflix for their exclusive shows.
Yeah, for Yellowstone, it was like we watched it on Peacock. So like we had to wait for a long time for like the whole season to be released on Peacock, because that's how we found it. And then to see that it was on Paramount, then I was like, I'm not paying for another one, so I'll just wait. We'll try and avoid spoilers, trying to avoid this and that. And then it worked out all right, but
Yeah, it's almost reversed roles in that sense, because it felt like streaming was cheaper for so long than cable. And now you're probably paying something comparable because you have to have all these different ones.
And it's like, you do bundles. So like I have a bundle with Disney Plus and Hulu, and it's like they also throw ESPN in there, but it's like there's nothing on ESPN that I want to watch.
And you still have to pay if you want to watch the fights. You still have to pay on top of that, the pay-per-view. So why am I paying for this streaming service if I still have to pay more?
Yeah,
What are we doing?
Yeah, I think I pay for Disney Plus and Hulu, and I think Sabrina pays for Netflix, and I think that's pretty much it. We have HBO Max through her sister. I think we have Peacock through her sister, and then for a while we had Netflix through her mom's account, and then another Netflix upstairs through my sister. And then, but now we just pay for our own, and it's easy, because that'd be a pain in the ass when you're watching a show downstairs and you got to go find the episode. It's not
and find where you left off.
It's not that's a first world problem. That's not a big deal, but
I think most of our problems nowadays are first world problems.
Yeah.
Have you seen Haiti? Dude.
Or everything happening over in Israel and stuff. It's like they're having a lot more issues than we are. So a lot of people like to complain about how is it over here. I'm like, we got it pretty good.
We got it pretty good.
Pretty good.
We got it pretty good. Our biggest problem is, prices for shit is rising pretty unsustainably, but
yeah, especially
we don't have cannibal gangs going through the streets,
especially in California.
Nice.
Yeah, especially in California, everything's just crazy expensive, whether it be in gas, like you want to buy a house, whatever. Like I got gas before I came here, and I had just under a quarter of a tank, and it took $96 to fill it up. I'm like, sick. I usually try and do it like a half a tank, so it hurts a little bit less in the wallet, and do it more often so it just evens out, I guess. But I try and do a half a tank because the $50 is easier to see than the 96.
It doesn't sting as bad.
It doesn't sting quite as bad.
Are you guys thinking of staying in California?
I don't know. We go back and forth. I think a lot of people around here do, because it's just like, you grow up here, you want to stay here. All your friends and your family are here. But it's like, you look at houses and, something that, in my mind, something that should be like $250,000 for a house is like $400,000. And it's like, now, so if you can find a nice house for $400,000, you're starting to think, oh, that's actually not so bad. And like, that's crazy, because you go other places and there's a lot of differences of wages and this and that. But like, you go somewhere else for $400,000, it's a way nicer of a spot than here.
It's a mansion. Somewhere else, you've got a 4-bedroom, 3-bath.
Or it's a modest house, but you got acres upon acres or whatever. And it's just like, so it's hard. You want to go somewhere that, because I think the biggest thing around here is like the climate. It never gets so hot, never gets too cold. It's it's pretty around here. If you want to go to the snow, 20 minutes away. If you go to Neyland, or if you want to go a little farther, go to Titlow, or there's rivers, there's lakes, there's a bunch of shit to do around here. And I think that's really nice. But you go anywhere else where it's just god awful hot or just freezing cold in the wintertime, it's like, it's not always like that year round, but it's like the month, like if you go to, I don't know, Arizona or Texas or New Mexico, it's like 4 out of the 12 months probably isn't going to be all that bad. It'll be nice, comfortable, whatever. But those other 8 months, you're just like,
it's going to suck.
You can't do anything outside. And so like that sucks. But I mean, you adapt to that and you get used to that. But I don't know. It's a back and forth thing for us.
It's weird how quickly you can adapt to whatever circumstance you're in. So now that houses are just crazy expensive, people have just accepted that.
Well, it's like, what are you going to do? It's like, well, like I had Zach with me when I got gas, and I'm like, I don't even really look at the gas prices that much. Someone's just like, oh, it went up 20 cents. It went down 20 cents. I'm like, I don't really notice because it's just like, I got to get it regardless. So, and yeah, it just kind of, it sucks because it is way too expensive, especially when you go over to Reading and it's $1.50 cheaper over there. And I'm like, it doesn't cost that much for it to get shipped from there to here to raise the price that much per gallon. So it's like, why is it so much cheaper over there? But
that's what I don't understand. Everyone says that it's because we're landlocked here and it's harder to get it out here, but we have the bay. Can't we just start
it's like
charging it in?
$2.99 can become, crappy between here and Reading. So it's this and that, or like Last Chance created a 101 up north.
Washes out every year.
Yeah, that's a big problem, but it's just like, usually from from here to the Bay Area, 101 is usually pretty good. Like there's probably a handful of times where it's been closed both ways for whatever reason. Like one time it was like during the fire season when we barely missed it over by Ukiah, just being able to get through before they shut the highway down, and then you're just at a standstill until they reopen it because the fire was just raging through there. But that's just one. I mean, there's other, there's gonna be other times that it closed or whatnot, but that was just one time I can think of.
And you don't think the few instances of that happening would jack gas prices that much?
No, that's a money grab. It's just like it's amazing some of the stuff that happens here, like how much money we pay in taxes and stuff, and it's crazy how much, whether it be, city, county, state, federal, like all the stuff that gets taken out of the paycheck. It's like, where's it all going? Like how many measures we've had the past 5 to 10 years of it's supposed to help improve the roads, and then the roads are god awful. Like it's terrible.
That's what I always point to. The roads.
Mm-hmm.
We're paying how much, and the roads are still this bad?
There was a thing where actually, I wonder if we're going to talk about it, so I screenshotted it on my phone.
Prepared. All right.
It's for Eureka, and it was the city of Eureka set aside $75,000 of this year's budget for participatory budgeting, and then there's 5 projects. They'll get approximately $15,000, and then seek to improve the quality of life in their neighborhoods. Which that would mean like roads, but $15,000 isn't a lot because you would, try and factor in that just a load of asphalt in your dump truck is going to be $1,000 to $2,000, and that can go, a block, that can go half a block depending on how thick you laid or whatever. But it said the 5 projects were going to be a rental assistance program, a utility assistance program, a tiny home and city sanctioned encampment workshop, enhanced traffic safety measures at California and Wabash, and a mural at the intersection of Summer and 14th. It's like,
that's good. That's what we want.
Yeah, it's more like, I'm all for like the paintings and stuff that are around town. They look great, and it irritates me that there's people out there that aren't super nice, that they spray paint, scratch out stuff on it, or do whatever it is to it. It's annoying, and it makes the artist not want to come back or not want to do it because it's not going to last. And then it's also annoying as a taxpayer because it's just like they didn't need to be there. Like
we paid for it.
Yeah, it's nice for it to be there because it's pretty and it's attractive, and I get that, but it's like for me, it's not as important as driving on the road and making sure like the roads are in good shape. And then the other thing that stood out to me on that thing was California and Wabash and Eureka. Past year, they turned it into a 4-way stop, which it always used to be. Wabash went all the way through, and then you would stop on California on the other side. And now they put 4 stop signs there, which, I mean, it is what it is. I thought it was stupid. I'm like, there's no reason that it should have changed, but that's also just not really liking change, I guess. But it's like, you already improved that intersection by putting up 2 more stop signs there. What do you need $15,000 more for the intersection?
And what are we doing with all these bulb outs?
Yeah,
how much money have they dumped into that could have gone to the roads?
Yeah, and a lot of that's annoying, and like it's not the end of the world, but it's like a lot of the curbs, like you could just do it. So there's a lot of curbs that don't have the bulb outs or whatnot.
Which for people that don't know, it just protrudes out farther into the street.
It's like 3 or 4 feet that goes from the curb out into the road. So like it's wheelchair accessible. But like there's a lot of curbs around here that, like the corner of that block and the intersection of the street, like they merge on a lip. There's no edge, there's no curb. It's just they are the same height. So it's a gradual, from the roadway onto the sidewalk, it's a gradual thing. So it's like just make them like that instead of doing the bulb outs the way they're doing it. But I mean, I'm sure that like I think that was more for like they don't get sued or whatnot for handicapped people or whatever.
Yeah, I don't know what reasoning they come up with for that, but it just feels like whoever is in charge of allocating funds, we got to have a chat with that guy. I think a lot of that is the city manager making these decisions.
Yeah, or like they set aside the $75,000 for those 5 different projects, and it's like not that those 5 projects aren't like important, and other people, lots of people are going to have different opinions about just the 5 things that $75,000 went aside for, whether if it's worth it or not, or what should be prioritized in that list of 5 things or not. For me, it's like none of those 5 things are more important than like the $15,000. It wouldn't go a lot towards like the road, but $75,000, so you could do something with that to improve on any number of the main roads. It's just like there's a street that I go down every day to go home. It's not the street that I live on, but like to get to it, I go down that way, and you have to drive down the middle of it because it's just the least worst spot. So you drive down in your lane, it's right where
you're hitting some potholes.
You're hitting potholes in the same way in the other lane. It's trash, but it's not a busy road. So I've come to terms with it for a long time that they're not going to fix that. That's very minimal in their eyes. It's like, and I agree with it because it's like all the roads that should be fixed are like, Harris is terrible. Henderson, there's all these.
Take your pick.
Yeah, it's like all these roads, like there's spots on Broadway that are shit. And it's like, that's Caltrans, not the city, but that's just a bigger entity where it just has the same problems. It's like their roads are shit. And it's like, what are, they do all these taxes and stuff for the roads, and that, people have cars, they get taxed on registration, fuel, all that stuff that's supposed to get put towards the roads. And it's like, where does it go? It goes towards putting in like fucking bike lanes and all this other stuff that those people like.
How many people are actually biking around? That would make sense to, especially I think it was I Street, they wanted to reduce it, or they're going to reduce it. Yeah.
But that's another thing too.
From
it's like,
3 lanes to 2.
Yeah, which I don't agree with. And I don't take those ways home to or from work. So like it doesn't like every day affect me. Like obviously I take those roads to go certain places. So like eventually it will. But for the people that go, from 8 to 5 to and from work, dropping their kids off from school, whatever, that's going to be a problem.
Good luck.
And it's going to be it's not worth it. To me, it's not worth cutting down the 3 lanes so there can be a 4 foot wide or 5 foot wide bike lane on either side of the road and, more parking. It's just, it doesn't really affect the parking situation too much because it's like even the way it is now, you can still park and whatnot for all the houses that live on there.
But it's definitely going to fuck up traffic.
Yeah, it's going to make it way worse.
For what purpose?
Yeah, well, and it's like, we were on a walk the other day. We were walking down J Street right in front of the high school. And J Street has a bike lane on either side of the road. And then there was 2 bicyclists that were on the sidewalk, and they went, they were coming up behind this person that was on the sidewalk, and they rang their little bell so like the person could know that they're coming. And I'm like, there's a goddamn bike lane on the road. Like, just use it. Like, so it's stuff like that irritates me, where it's just like that stuff's there and they're still not using it. Or bicycles, they want to be, for safety, they want to be the same thing as cars. They want to be in the middle of the lane, or they want to just have, they have the right way. They want cars to look out for them, which is important. It's safety, this and that. But it's just like, I've seen so many bicycles like at a stop sign just keep going. It's like, okay, well, you want to be treated like a car, but then only when it's convenient for you, not because you think that's the way it should be. It's just a convenience thing. When it works in your favor, it works in your favor. But when it doesn't, then it's like, oh, I'm a bicycle, I'm different.
Shit, that sums up a lot of people just in general.
Yeah.
The idea of, I want these things to apply to me only when it suits me, not when it doesn't.
Yeah. But I think a part of that too is just like flagging for a few years that I didn't.
You're more aware of it.
Yeah, it's like I'm more aware of it. It's like, you got a line full of cars, and then you get a bicycle that comes in. Like sometimes, they would be like, oh, like they would at least ask. Some people would stop. They work their way to the front of the line, which they should. But then, they're like, oh, like, is it okay for is it okay if I go, or can I make it around? A car can't, but I'm smaller, whatever. And I'd be like, yeah, go ahead. Or I'd radio, like, can a bicycle come? They're like, yeah, go ahead. But then there's a lot of them that were just, they would just blow on by. There was one girl one time where I told her, it was pretty much to the effect of, she kept going and I'm like, you're not going to stop. And she's like, oh no, I'm in a hurry or whatnot. And I was just like, there's shit going over there that, something like, cause I think we were mowing that day. So like, it's flinging shit everywhere. It's a pretty violent machine. And I was just like, something could hit you. And he's like, oh, nothing. Or she was all, nothing's going to hit me. Yeah. Cause you just know that. Yeah.
Yeah. Cut to her suing the city.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You would think that some of this is just people want a greener city. The idea is you can kind of cut back on traffic and promote these other avenues. Let's walk, let's bike.
I think that's a part of it for sure. Cause I mean, like, and that's a good argument. It's just like, it's better for, your health, this and that, but it's just like, it's not also suitable to ride a bike every day. Not everyone, it's like, that eliminates, you going to school with your kids, like dropping them off or whatever. It's like, or if it's raining, or it's just like, there's a lot of situations where riding a bike is not, so it's not efficient. It's not enough. It's just more of a pain in the ass than when it's really worth. So cars take priority over bicycles. Like I don't care. That's just it. And the roads should be more important than a lot of the other stuff that they're wasting money on.
My problem is how much time do you have to pay attention to all of that? You just see these measures come through. Oh, we're gonna provide more money for the roads. You're like, okay, let's do that. And then that money gets diverted to something else, or it's a bike lane.
Well, now it's at the point where I've seen people, they're like, where I've been more like after, however many measures or whatever that gets passed to get money for the roads, and still very little, if nothing, has happened. And, another one comes along and I'm just like, okay, cool. Like more money for the roads. And I've had other people like, no, like I'm not voting for that, because it's just like, they've already taken this money that was supposedly for the roads and put it somewhere else. So what's to say they're not going to do it again? No. Like if they're going to fix the roads, they're going to do it with what we already give them now and tell them that that's what they're supposed to use it for. So use it for that. And so now some people are at that point where it's like, even if they were to actually take more money and actually use it for the roads,
just vote no.
Yeah, they're at the point now where like, no, like all this other stuff that was allegedly for the roads hasn't been used for it. Why is this going to be any different? They don't trust them. So it's just like, that's a big problem.
How do you build that trust back?
To me, it's
start fixing the roads.
To me, it's like you take that $75,000 that the city of Eureka is going to put toward these other freaking issues or projects or whatever, and put it towards something that's actually useful and beneficial for everybody. Because it's just like, it's how you get places. Bicycles or cars alike, that's how you get there, is the road. So if it's shitty for everybody. That's what I don't get. It's like all the people that make these rules, like, do you not see how bad the roads are? Like, do you just walk to work every day and just don't have to worry about the roads? Like, do you not see how big of a problem it is? And then it's just like, blame it on this, you blame it on that. There's not enough money. Oh, the money went here. It's like, there's a bunch of BS that gets spewed about everything and where it goes and to where it shouldn't go and to where it should go. And everybody has an excuse. Everybody has a fall guy. It's like, oh, it's that person's fault. It's that person's fault. Or that's the problem. This isn't the problem. That's the problem. It's just, I think there's a lot of finger pointing and not a lot of action being taken to actually fix issues.
Well, that's the easiest thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
Just say, oh, well, we allocated this money, but it's this person's fault that we didn't actually implement it.
Yeah, and now that person's being voted out. Now it's going to be better. And then the same thing just happens. It's just, they're not going to fix anything because, like, there's never enough money to do anything. So they want to do this, but also this, and they don't prioritize things correctly.
And we got to give more money to the homeless.
Yeah. That's another thing where I'm just like, I don't agree with that either. It's like, yeah, like when I go back and forth, honestly. If I see someone on the side of the road and they have a sign or, they're in a tent or like whatever, if I feel bad for them or not. It really is a 50-50 because I'm just like, not being super old myself. I'm just like, I have a roof over my head. I've kept my, stuff on a straightened enough arrow to where like, I like to think I have my shit somewhat together to where I have a roof over my head. I have a car. I have a job. Like I have things to do. I'm a normal contributing person of society. What happened to them? And there's plenty of stories out there that are, there's reasons as to why they are where they are. But I think a lot of it is they didn't get in trouble for what they did one thing bad, didn't get in trouble for this. They kept doing it, stayed on that path, and then now they're where they are, and it's led them nowhere. And then now it's costing you and me money to help pay for the things that they get for free. It's like they get to go into a hospital and get hit with Narcan or get hit with anything that's going to make them feel better, because like the hospital can't just turn them away because they don't have any money to pay. But you and I go in there, it's not free. They send us a bill and it's, thousands and thousands of dollars.
And it's all obscured, layered under other things.
Yep. And
what am I really paying for here?
Yeah. And it's like, and that's where I'm just like, that's where that stems from, like, not feeling bad. 'Cause I'm just like, there's plenty of opportunities I'm sure that you could have taken, or you could have had a job and worked your way up to something like everybody else does, but then they just stayed on their shitty, path, and then they're on the side of the road asking you and I for money. And it's like, we're already giving you money by all this stuff, getting, you keeping all the shelters and keeping all the food going for, stuff like that, which it is important. But it's just like people like that don't utilize those things and actually rely on those things to be beneficial and make themselves better. They just use that to survive until they get their next fix or until they get more money from somebody else. It's just like, I watched a guy a few weeks ago over in Gentilly in Arcata. It's just like had a small fry or a medium fry from McDonald's or whatever, and he's so spun out or whatever that he just dumped. I mean, the thing was like almost full and just dumped the whole thing on the ground. It's like, yeah, that right there makes me not feel bad for you. It's like someone actually felt bad enough for you to buy you food, and then you just throw it on the ground. Now the fucking birds are going to eat it. It's like, I don't feel bad for you.
I'll do food. I'll give them food if I'm in a drive-thru or something, but I don't do money anymore. Just because what is it actually going to?
Yeah.
I'll give you food. I mean, if you look like you're hungry, I'm a sucker for the ones with dogs too. Which is why they have dogs.
I know there's plenty of people that have dog food and everything else in their car just so that when they see somebody with a dog, they'll make sure the dog doesn't go hungry or whatever, because it's not the dog's fault. And that's what's sad. It's just like, yeah, like, they're down in their luck, they're homeless, whatever. They need somebody that loves them, and a dog, it's the best thing for that. And
you have protection.
Yeah.
You're sleeping on the streets.
But it's just like, it's not a good life for the dog. Of course, the dog doesn't know that, but it's just like, the dog looks happy as a clam sitting there at the stoplight at the mall, just happy to be there with its owner and whatnot, and just happy to be there, but doesn't have anything to eat, or has bad things to eat, not as often as it should, doesn't have a safe place to sleep, isn't, warm and dry. They're cold and wet because it's raining and they got nowhere to go, or they're wearing a t-shirt and that's the best thing that the owner has to give them, some sort of protection or comfort. And it's just like, my dog has a roof over his head. He gets fed twice a day. It's just like, he's happy. He's got a good life. Those dogs don't know that. And so it's like, those people shouldn't have dogs. And some of them, I'm just like, where do you get them? It's like, because like a lot of them will be like good looking dogs that, like, if you go, if they're at a shelter, they're gone like that because they're a popular breed. Or if you buy them, people pay big money because I've seen people with huskies before. And I'm like, did you steal it from somebody? Because where else did you get that dog?
I'm sure that's a factor. Sure, it makes sense. You would want a dog. I would want a dog if I was homeless. Just from a purely protective standpoint. But you can't afford to go.
Can't afford to take care of yourself. What makes you think it's okay for you taking care of something else? Like a living, breathing, like, needs responsibility, needs taken care of. You can't take care of yourself. Why do you think you deserve or expect to have another living being that you have to take care of? That doesn't make sense. You can make all the, justifications in the world for companionship, for protection, for this. It doesn't matter. You can't take care of yourself. You shouldn't be taking care of the animal. And a lot of time you're not. They're there with you. The best thing you've ever done for that dog is give them a t-shirt to wear. Other people, out of the kindness of their hearts, give the dog food, give whatever, they got to the animal.
I think that's a factor too, is you probably get a little more if you have a dog.
Yeah. But I think that's where that's to me, that's where I always jump to why they have the dog, is like, that's the biggest reason, is like they get more from people when they see it's one thing to see, a dirty, looks like they use drugs person on the side of the road and not feel bad for them. When they see a dog next to them, they see a Labrador next to them, they're like, oh man.
Sucker for the dog.
Mm-hmm. And so from the homeless people, like I get it. I understand why you have one, but you shouldn't have one. But then there's no fix for that because it's just like, what if somebody goes up, takes the dog from them? The dog might just be going to the shelter, most likely.
Yeah, and then what? It gets euthanized?
Yeah, it gets euthanized because no one adopts it, or, the shelters are already full and they're just taking on more than they can handle and stuff. So it's like taking it away from them isn't really a great option either. So it's just like, what do you do? And there's a lot of situations like that where it's just like, what do you do? Because there's no good, right answer for anything. A lot of it is just like, if you do this, this is going to happen, or you take away this and this is going to happen. It's a cause and effect thing for both ways. And it's just, where does it, what's going to happen in the long run? And then no one has a long run plan.
Nobody has a long run plan. And the plan that we're implementing now doesn't feel like it's doing anything. I mean, you think about how many millions, if not billions of dollars we've allocated towards solving this problem, especially in California. Have we made any progress?
No, if anything, it's gotten worse. You give people free things and they don't work for it, they don't earn it, they destroy it, they lose it, they break it, it gets stolen, whatever, they go back, they get another one. It's just like, there's no respect for things that are given to you. You respect things that you have earned. And so, it's like, if there was less handouts, if there was less things that quote unquote help these people, they might be more apt to help themselves. And I don't mean I'm going to help myself and steal that because I need it more than that person. It's like, actually help yourself, because not every single homeless person out there has mental issues. Not every single homeless person out there, is down on their luck and this and that. They didn't try. They've never tried anything. They've been given everything and now they're pieces of shit for it.
Well, and I think San Francisco is implementing something where they're going to pay people not to commit crime, high-risk individuals. I want to say it's $300 a month.
Yeah, that's fucking terrifying. That's
pretty
scary.
crazy.
Like, that's scary. Like, why do you think that's okay to do?
Hey, we know you're breaking a lot of laws. You're committing crime. We're going to give you $300 not to do that.
Well, the thing is too, some people are just like, oh, they need help. They need this and that. I'm like, well, if you were to do the things that they are doing and have done in the past and keep doing, you'd be in jail. You'd be in prison. You'd be way better. But they just get caught, released. They get this and that. They get a finger like, oh, don't do that. But that's it. You or I do something like that, then it's big time trouble.
It's game on.
Yeah. And it's just like, it's not that you and I have anything to fucking give, but we got more to give than they do. And so that's another thing too, where I'm just like, I don't really understand when people are all about like, helping these people. Cause it's just like, if they get away with things that you can't. So it's just like it's not even, it's not equal. It's like,
it's equitable, Dustyn. It's equitable.
I just don't get
That's
it.
what we're shooting for nowadays.
Yeah, I just don't get it.
When you were growing up, did you ever think the system was this fucked?
No.
I did not.
Not that I ever really thought about that.
Yeah, I never really paid attention.
That wasn't really my train of thought. A lot of the time, because growing up, as a kid, you're innocent, whatever. You do feel bad for people. Like, you feel bad for the dogs. You feel bad for the people that have, it's when you get older and you kind of realize some of the things that, like, as to why they're actually are like that, or like you actually know for sure they're like that, or you just, kind of assume or whatnot as to why they're like that. Because I've seen my mom be going to Target and someone like, oh man, can like you treat her real like super friendly, and was just like, oh, can you spray any change? And she's just like, no, get a job. And there was a couple of times where I'm like, Mom, that was, that was mean, that was this. And now I'm like, I fucking get it. Like, I get it. Like, get the fuck away from me. Get away from my wife. Get away from everybody that's going into the store because they have a job. They're spending the money and stuff that they need, that they deserve because they have a full-time job, and you're just out here panhandling, sleeping under the awning with your sleeping bag and your trash everywhere. To get the fuck out of here.
I think we have a real compassion problem in this country. And that's not to say that compassion is a bad thing.
No, it's definitely not.
It's important to have that, especially for people that are less fortunate or down on their luck.
Yeah.
But compassion for compassion's sake is dangerous. I think that's when you get to a point in time where you start paying people not to commit crime.
Yeah, you give someone an inch and they get a mile. or they want a mile. It's like, nope, you get this because we're being nice enough to give you this, but then they're like, oh, but I want this. And I'm like, no, it's like, you got to draw the line, put your foot down, say no. But it's just not the way it works.
People want more. People just want more.
Yeah, for some reason, like they think that they deserve it. It's like, for what? What are you doing to society? Like, what are you contributing to society to make you think that you deserve it? It's like, yes, no one, like, it sucks and it's unfortunate. Like, you don't want, being a person, you want every person in the world to have a full belly, to have a good, safe place to sleep. There's a, you want everybody to have that, because that should be, just not a right, but it should be just something that everybody should have. But there's reasons as to why that person doesn't have it and you do. There's things that they've done wrong. There's things that they haven't done correctly or didn't even try at all. And that's why they're there and you're in the spot you're at. So it's not up to you. It shouldn't be your responsibility to make sure that they have what they need. That should have been their own responsibility from the get-go.
And it shouldn't be a burden on the middle class to uplift everyone below them, which it is.
Yeah, 100%. And it's just, I don't know when, but at some point it's going to be too much and it's going to break.
I've been waiting for it to break for a while now.
Me too. And there's only so much, because I'm like, what's it going to take? Like, all these people that, they're super pro with all these programs, all these outreach programs, all these, entities, all these things being given to people so that they're trying to make their lives better for people who are less fortunate. What's it going to take for you to, like, finally say enough's enough? When you see the same person, let's just say like you're handing out tents to people, and you see the same person in a year come back 20 times for a new tent. What's it finally going to take for you to be like, you know what? No. If you have a tent and you actually have it for a decent amount of time and actually have taken care of it and stuff, next time you come back, I'll give you another one. But you come back twice a month because something happened or you fucked it up or whatever. It's like, no, it's abusing. There's giving someone help, and then there's them abusing that help. And that's when it becomes a problem. And you need to put your foot down and say no.
I don't think people are at that point.
No. And I'm wondering when that's going to happen, when people are going to be like, when is enough enough? It's like,
I think that's when World War III kicks off. Then people realize, oh, I need to start cutting back and not overextending in this way anymore.
Yeah. It's just
it's just not sustainable.
No, it's not. And
that's the reality of it.
And that circles back to long-term plan. There's no long-term plan. It's like, in the long run, this isn't going to work. It's quote unquote, working for right now. It's not, but to higher ups and for people who are running the state, it hasn't fallen in the ocean yet. People are still alive. So, I mean, like, I guess that was a good day. No, it could and should be a lot better. And there should be a lot less homeless people than there is. I think taking away some of the privileges and taking away some of the stuff that they get for free and actually start earning it, I think would help.
You think it would incentivize them to course correct in some way?
Yeah, I mean, it's
alter some behavior.
Well, it's just it's just you at your job. You do these things correctly, you get paid. You do your job well, you get paid. You don't get fired, you get paid. You earn what you get. Homeless people don't earn shit; they just get. So if they earn stuff, if people earn more things, I think they'd be more apt to treat it with respect and make it last longer, because you don't know if you're going to get that help again or not.
It's not something you can just rely on. That, oh, you've got all these programs. You can go and pick and choose which ones to use when you need them.
Yeah. And I mean, somebody who, doesn't, you're like, oh, you don't, because everyone knows somebody who is in a rough spot or is this and that. And it's just like, I've been one of those people. I mean, call me heartless, but it's just like my wife's helped members of my family that I refuse to. That she's never actually talked to them, met them, but I know who they are and I've told her about them, and she's gone out of her way once or twice to help them when I'm just like, I won't give them shit. So it's just like, to me, they've never done anything for me. They've never done anything for anybody. They only think about themselves and, what they want and what they think they deserve and need. And they're just sleeping on the street. leaving trash everywhere, this and always, drunk or on drugs or whatever. And I'm just like, no, you don't deserve help. But she's nice enough to where she's gone and she was giving them food, this and that stuff that we weren't going to eat anyway, and giving them food. And I'm just like, well, that's more than you. That's more than I would have done because I wouldn't give them the time of day.
It's a tricky situation because you have people who are really just down on their luck, or maybe they went through something traumatic and are trying to get back on their feet. So you want those programs there to help them.
Exactly. You don't want you don't want those taken away. Those programs are important. I don't want to say that they're not, but it's hard to weed out people who actually are on hard times, have actually lost their job because of cutbacks or because of whatever else. And now it's like they need outreach programs to help them and their family survive. There's all good and dandy to keep those things alive, but it's hard to weed out those people from the shitheads and the tweakers and the bums that just
are doing fentanyl.
Yep. That just expect that. And it's like they've never done anything for anybody. And it's hard to weed them out and separate those two. Because it's hard to be like, okay, well, we can give you this, but we can't give you this. Like person A gets everything, gets all the help, gets this, but person B doesn't.
And how do you know unless you follow them around?
Exactly.
Or
and it's
vetted their story. Or
yep. And then it's like, how do you do that? How do you regulate that? It's hard. So it's not easy. And if you do like this stuff, I don't know. It sucks because like you want everybody just to be happy, this and that, but it's just like the most important. It's like you just. Like I go to work, I do the best I can, I get paid, and I do the best for me and my family. And it makes, I feel bad for some people, but other people, it's just like I can clearly tell you've never tried anything. You never tried to help yourself. It's just, or all you've ever done is try to help yourself. You never try to do anything for anyone else, and that's why you are where you are. Again, I'm 25. I'm not old, but it's just like I'm doing a lot better than a lot of people. And it's just like, I like to think it's because like I earned things. It wasn't because I was given anything. It's like my family didn't come from money. It's like my mom is an assistant manager at a gas station and has been for over 20 years and then took care of me, my brother, and my dad, all with the paycheck of that. And it's fucking amazing. And there's people that, so I don't come from much, but it's just
you're not a trust fund kid saying
no. And so that's where I'm just like, giving people everything is not how you turn them into better people.
Yeah, I don't know if people want to course correct in that way. It feels like the train is so far deep on these tracks that, I mean, I don't even know if we can turn it around at this point.
Yeah, I don't.
Or what that would look like.
Yeah,
and if we wanted to.
Yeah, it goes back to like where do you start, where do you end, where's like, and that's a problem. That's a question that nobody has the answer to. That's why it's just getting worse and worse because no one actually has, a good sought after plan that's really seeing it through that can really actually work.
Has a plan and has the will to execute the plan. I mean, the idea that you get out of life what you're willing to work for. People don't want to hear that. Some people do. Some people want to hear that. It's encouraging for them to recognize that you can rise above your circumstances or you can achieve what you want in this life, as long as you're willing to work for it. But then you have this other camp that thinks, well, it should just be provided. That these are rights that we can afford as a pretty strong country. A lot of people are doing well. Why can't we just allocate some of what they're earning and give it to these other people who aren't doing as well?
And again, like there's importance of that because you get people who actually are down on their luck. They actually need help and they don't want to
get back on their feet.
Yeah, but there's enough times where, somebody gets knocked down, you help them back up. How many times are they going to get knocked down before you like, you know what? No, you get yourself up. Because otherwise you're not learning anything. You need to learn to pick yourself up and get through shit on your own to be stronger.
What do you think that is? Do you think that's the internet? That you can just see people have this meteoric rise, or you can see people who have so much that you get a little jaded and you think, well, I deserve something too.
Yeah, I think that's a part of it is, you see people like, to them, it's easy to get famous on YouTube or TikTok. But it goes back to what we talked about earlier, where it's just like you start a YouTube channel. It takes work. It takes a long time for you to get it might take only one video for you to like really blow up, and all of a sudden now you're this big huge sensation. But nobody really goes back before that one video to see how long you did it, what you're actually started as. They just go back to that one video, and he's like, oh, it took one video and he just blew up. It's like there was more work and effort put into it than what meets the eye. And a lot of people don't really see that. They just see somebody does something stupid, or somebody does something funny, or says something really smart and educated, and then they're just like, I can do that too. They don't see all the work that got put into it. They don't like understand.
You never do.
Yeah,
You never do.
and so I think it's an issue. I don't know if I go as far as call it a problem, because it's just like, you just got to understand that there's more to it than what meets the eye. There's more than just what the final product is. You need to understand the work that came before that to make the final product happen.
Yeah, but that's not sexy.
No.
Nobody wants to look at that. You just want to see the polished product and think, oh, I can do that.
Mm-hmm. And you can,
but work for it.
Yeah, but it takes work, effort. It takes ethic. It takes, blood, sweat, and tears to do it. It's not just, you wave a magical wand and it just appears. It just happens. Just because you want it doesn't mean you deserve it. When you want it and you earn it, then you deserve it.
Yeah, people want that magic wand.
It's like some people are just like, oh, I think we've talked about this before, where it's just like no one should be a billionaire. Why not? Like Jeff Bezos started Amazon in his garage. Now look at him. You don't like it that much, don't buy from Amazon. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, but the idea that we should go take his money and restrict him just because there shouldn't be a person who has that much wealth
I think it's
in
bullshit.
society is kind of...
I think it's bullshit. I'm just like, he earned it.
And if you were in that position, would you be saying the same thing still?
Yeah.
If you made $1 billion? Not you personally, but if the person's saying we need to restrict billionaire status, if you were a billionaire, would you be singing the same song?
If I was a billionaire and someone tried to tell me that I shouldn't be allowed to make so much money, I'd tell them to get fucked. And I feel like that's I am not mad at billionaires, especially when it comes to a story like that, where it's like you start something
and you work your ass off.
Yeah. And it's like, you get to a point where like, yeah, he's making money on other people's dollars, the warehouse workers, the drivers, people who actually make the product. He's getting rich on all that. But like, that's part of the bill. Like that's where he ended up. But like he was delivering stuff to houses all on his own in a van out of his garage. He didn't have any, like, that was just him having a dream, and then it just turned into what it is.
And it just as easily could have flopped.
Mm-hmm.
And he could have just been that guy who was trying to sell books online and faded into obscurity.
Mm-hmm.
But he made it.
But because he's got a bunch of money and, it's quote unquote power for some things, some people, then it's just like, he's a bad guy. He shouldn't be allowed to have what he has. Like,
that's a little dangerous.
Yeah.
It scares me that people don't look at that and think that is something I can achieve. They look at that and say this is inherently bad.
No,
and it's wrong that our system allows this. That's kind of freaky.
I think that's scary too, because like, when I see people like on YouTube that have like a fun like channel, they just go out to do whatever they want. They will jump in like, let's just see how fast I can take this car around this track, or let's see what happens when I do this to this or something like that. It's like, it'd be fun to do stuff like that just to make content for people to enjoy. But it's like also being able to be you don't just do that. Like, you have to be in a situation to be allowed to do that. And I don't know if that makes sense. But it's like you lay the groundwork and you build yourself up to where it's just like, yeah, if you want to go buy, $80,000 car and see what happens when you do this to it, some people are going to be like, well, like, he shouldn't be allowed to buy the car because he's just going to do whatever he's going to do to it. But it's just like, I have the money. I bought the damn thing. I do what I want with it.
Have you heard of Whistling Diesel?
Yeah.
That's what came to mind when you were saying that.
Yeah.
Is someone who, will have these gorgeous cars that are, a couple $100,000 and just trash them.
Yeah.
And people get mad, but he bought that.
And it's like, there's companies that they won't allow you. So I'm assuming the video you're talking about is like when he burned the Ferrari in the field It's like Ferrari does not want him to own another one. And I don't blame them. Like, I wouldn't want someone to have my car that's just going to go and
Just
torch it or
trash it.
destroy it. Like, I get that. But at the same time, like, he bought the damn thing. He gets to do what he wants with it. You got your money. Like, the only thing that was left of that car after that burned was, like, the badges that were on the side of the car. Everything else was torched. So, but he bought it. So, he gets to do what he wants with it. And it's scary that, it's like Tesla. I saw a thing the other day where big YouTuber I watch is Doug DeMuro. And he does car reviews. He does older ones. He does a lot of his stuff is newer cars because that's what a lot of people are interested in is the features and this and that of a new car. But he takes a lot of older cars too and like does the same thing. Just shows like the features it has, like what 1985 Mercedes and like it walks you through the whole thing, how it drives, this and that. But he was saying that Tesla, because he hasn't reviewed a Cybertruck yet, and a lot of people are asking him why, and he said that a lot of it is it's hard to get a hold of one because people who buy one want to resell it and make the money on it. And some people do, but there's a risk. Like Tesla caught on to that and said that if you buy our truck and resell it because they're like over $100,000 just to buy one. Some people have sold them for $200,000, $250,000, like to double their money by having it for however long they've had it and then flip it to make money. It's like, Tesla has a problem with that because they're not buying their own Tesla from Tesla. They're buying a Tesla secondhand.
You're working the system a little bit.
And so and you're the one making the profit on it and Tesla's not, which I understand would upset them. It upsets Tesla as a company from a business standpoint. Like you're losing out the money where someone buys a vehicle secondhand and not from you. It's frustrating, but they're trying to put together to where it's like, they will not sell you a car again. If you go out and buy a Tesla and you go and resell it, they have a program or they're trying to get one installed and in progress where you can't buy a Tesla anymore. Like they won't allow you to buy one. And I'm like, I think that's ridiculous. Like, again, I understand why, but I just think it's ridiculous. It's like you bought it. Whatever you do with it after you buy it from them, it's up to you.
Yeah, it's an interesting restriction, right? You paid money for this thing, but we're going to limit you on how quickly you can turn around and sell it.
Mm-hmm.
But then you have the counter to that, which is people who are scalpers and will buy a shitload of concert tickets, or back when PS5s first dropped, we're buying a ton of PS5s and then flipping them for double and triple what they're actually worth.
And it's like, I did something similar. It's like way smaller of a scale and it's stupid, but it was just like, I bought a KitchenAid mixer one time on Black Friday. And I turned around and sold it for like $200 more than I bought it for because somebody else didn't go out and get it. They waited to the last minute to go try and get one for Christmas. I'm like, oh, I got one, but it's going to be this much money. And so it's just like, I've done it. Like, again, way smaller of a scale, but it's just like, that's not my problem. That's your problem.
Yeah. Is it your fault that you're going to make a little extra money because somebody didn't plan for that?
The person who probably paid the extra $200 probably thought that, and I didn't.
Yeah, but they could just not buy it.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's just like, I didn't
to try to limit that.
It's like, I'm not making you do anything. I have one available, but it's gonna
cost.
Yeah. And it's just like, just because I bought it on sale, it's like there's no difference between you going to the store and buying one at the same price that I'm asking versus, just because I got it on sale and you're going to go to the store and buy it full price. It's like, it is what it is.
Yeah, what do you do for that? Because you should be able to buy something and then sell it without restriction.
Yeah, because you own
But scalpers are bad.
Yeah, and because it just makes the price of everything go up, and it's like when people buy and flip houses, it's like there's a house in Eureka that's $400,000. It's a nice house, but it's not, to me, it's not worth $400,000. But you can see that last year they bought it for $100,000. And they put a bunch of money into it, a bunch of work into it. It looks very nice. But it's like, should they be punished for trying to make $300,000? Some people are going to yes, or some people are going to say yes, some people are going to say no. I'm more in the camp like, no, they can do what they want. It sucks, but they should be able to do what they want because they bought it.
And the market decides.
Yeah.
If you don't want to pay $400,000 for that house, you don't buy it.
Yeah. And it's like if someone wants to just offer them $250,000 because they think that's what it's worth, that's their right to just, I'll give you $250,000, not $400,000, because it's like, I'm fine with you making $150,000 off me, but I'm not okay with you making $300,000 off me. It's like,
And it can bite you in the ass.
And that can be there can be a problem with that, where it's just, again, let's just like, that means the house that, if that house sells for $400,000 or more, which it might, then the house just automatically next door goes up in value, even though it hasn't been touched since 1979, and it's still got flower wallpaper and green carpet, and there's no driveway, and there's a tiny garage, but it has a big backyard, just all these different things. But just because the house right next door is $400,000 value, the one right next door that hasn't been touched since 1979 is now automatically worth so much more money, even though it's not even close to the same caliber of a house. Could be, but it takes a lot more money to put into it at that point.
There's a guy who bought a house, and it was nice. It wasn't nice. It was beat up, and he paid maybe $450 for it, and he tried to flip it for, I think, closer to $7. And this was peak boom.
Mm-hmm.
So back more so during COVID, when people were just buying up whatever they could. Still has it because it didn't sell.
Mm-hmm.
Dumped a bunch of money into it. Still doesn't. It looks better, not great. It was a rush job. But he bought it thinking, oh, I can buy this and flip it and make a ton of money. Market said no, and now he still got it. And that's the counter to that.
Yeah.
And nobody's going to say, oh, well, we should give that guy some extra cash because it didn't work out. That's the risk you take. You're gambling.
And I've met plenty of people that, when COVID hit, that's when they moved up here because they're from the Bay Area, or they're from Southern California, where there's a lot more money. But everything else is so expensive down there that when they see stuff up here, they're like, whoa, I can make that work. I can work from home. I can do whatever, but have I can make $500,000, let's say, somewhere from Central California down to the lower half, somewhere down there, but buy a house up here for $400,000 when that same house down where I'm from would be 3 times that. That's a no-brainer for them. Like, yeah, I'm going to buy the one that's up here.
Even if it's a fixer-upper.
Yeah.
Who cares?
And so I've met lots of people that have, they're in that situation where they are not from here. In the past 10 years, they moved here because they've retired, or they still work down there but work remote. So they buy a cheaper house up here because it's nicer for them, because it's cheaper. It sucks for me and for you and me, because it just makes where we're from, it's harder to buy a house where we were, born and raised, and our roots are here, versus someone who just comes in and then just buys a house that we can't afford anymore. It's but I don't like that, but I don't blame them for it, because I would have done the same thing. It just makes sense for them. And so it's just however you feel about that. But yeah, I've had plenty of conversations with people where I'm just like, I really wish you didn't. I really wish you wouldn't have moved here, because someone I know could have bought in this house and it would have been a lot more beneficial for them than it is for you. But I can't be mad at you for it.
I get why you did it.
Yeah, I would have done the same thing. It's just,
I think that's the disconnect, is people can't empathize with where that person is in terms of their situation.
Mm-hmm.
That if the roles were reversed and you were them, you would probably do the same thing.
Yeah. And so that's where, sometimes I have a hard time with stuff like that. Because it's just for me and my family, I want to be able to buy a house here. But someone comes from Southern California, buys the house that I wanted, and just, could barely afford anyway. And they come out and just drop $200,000 on top of my offer just because they can and they want it. Even if they've seen the house, sight unseen, they just buy it. It sucks for you. But if you were to leave California and go somewhere else, you're doing the exact same thing to somebody else, but it's not your problem anymore. So you don't care. You don't see it that way. You finally see the other side of the coin. And it's just some people are just how many people have you known that are from here, that live here their whole life, and all of a sudden the last 2 or 3 years they've gone to Idaho because they've been pushed out. It's well, now you're pushing people in Idaho out of stuff that they're born into, some they're from. The same thing that happened to you, you're doing to somebody else. It's just, you got to understand that it's not your problem. There's only so much you can do. So it's just this happened to you. So you got to go somewhere else to where you can afford to live, where you can afford to, and not just I think there's a big difference between living and surviving. There's living where you can have, not make $1 million, but you can have some money in the bank, be comfortable, be able to take your family on a trip or two every couple of years or whatnot. But not be, because surviving is like paycheck to paycheck. It's just you don't get to do anything extra. Like all you can do is what you can
You're
afford.
just getting by.
Exactly. And it's just like, so like that's surviving. And so for me, I've always wanted to live. I don't want to survive. I want to live. And so you just can't be mad at people that have taken the right steps to live, and it just keeps, it gets easier. And it seems to me anyway that when you take the right steps and you become, so high, it gets easier, because you, like Jeff Bezos, just like it took him a long time to get from where he was to where he is now. But it's like you get to a point where what you've created becomes so big that you just get to sit back and watch the money come in. You don't have to do anything. You have a nice fancy office, in a skyscraper, and you sit around just waiting for the money to come in. Can't be mad at him for it. I can't anyway. Some people will be. I can't.
I don't think you can if you're being pragmatic. It's just if you're the lowest man on the totem pole, you can only be mad because you're not the one that's moving out because you can't afford it here, so you're going to go to this other market and buy something there. You're the lowest man on the totem pole. So you're stuck. Yeah, and so all you can do is be upset.
And so it's hard to, let's say you're they got the bottom of the totem pole for 20, 25 years. It's like,
that sucks.
It's like you're starting to realize, like, are you ever going to be able to get to the next step up? But then it's just like, the people, it takes time. It doesn't happen overnight. It takes work. And for some people, they can work their whole life and never it gets,
you're running in place.
Yep. And it sucks. It fucking sucks.
That's a bad spot to be in.
And that's where it's just like those people, like they might need help, because it's just like they're in the same spot, they're making the same wage, and like when the cost of living goes up and groceries go up and gas goes up and everything, but they're still only getting like a 50-cent raise every year and a half, whatever it is. It's harder and harder for them to live. So eventually they're going to need the handouts. They're going to need the programs to help them survive, because it's so hard for them to even survive in the first place. It's just becoming harder and harder and harder. And it's just, but they're mad at the guy at the very top because, he's living like a king, but maybe some things went better on his way to the top than it is yours.
Yeah. You didn't see all the troubled nights that Bezos went through.
And there's plenty of people that are born into it. There's plenty of people that are born into money. There's plenty of people that, they're born into a very well-off family that, they take advantage of it, and then they go down certain paths, and like they're not good. Like they're not good people. They're not in a good spot. It's just they came from this, but they took bad turns, and now, like, just because you're born into something doesn't mean like you're worth something. So you gotta earn your worth.
And doesn't mean you're gonna keep it.
No.
How many kids that are born into trust fund families
get into
blow
drugs?
it all?
Yeah. They go out partying every night. They're out living it up, and it's just like the guy on the totem pole is just like, or at the bottom of the totem pole, he's like jealous because that guy's going out and partying and drinking and doing all this stuff or whatever, like living life. But then it's just like he does that so much where he ends up at the same spot. It's like, just because you're born into something doesn't mean you're gonna, like you said, it doesn't mean you're gonna stay there. It doesn't mean you deserve to be there. It's just, it is what it is. You got to work for what you want. Like no one should just be expected to, be given things. It's like Bill Gates has said that, like, when he dies, his kids he's not gonna give the money he's made to his kid. It's like it's up to them to
do something.
Exactly.
There's a quote that I've been kind of sitting on for a while and mulling over, and the idea is that I want to say it's Jim Rohn that said this, who was kind of a motivational speaker later in life. And it's that you can have anything you want in life, but you can't have everything you want.
Yeah.
You're going to have to make sacrifices. If you want to be a great baseball player, maybe you're going to sacrifice time with friends. Maybe you're going to sacrifice time with families.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you're not going to be going out and living it up on a Friday night. If you want to be Jeff Bezos, maybe your marriage falls apart.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you don't have a great relationship with your kids. Maybe you're spending a lot of nights where you're alone, losing hair, freaking out about if you're going to make payroll tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
You can have anything. You just can't have everything.
Yep. And I think there's a lot of people that don't. They think when you have, anything, it comes with everything, and it doesn't.
It does not.
It's like there's people, they look at celebrities that, they're made of money, they're this or that. Like you said, like you don't know the other side of the story. Let's say if someone, professional athlete, his worked his from time he could walk up until he made it into the NFL. He's done everything he possibly can to make sure that he got there and he's well off and he's got a career and he's remembered in the Hall of Fame and he's this and that. Well, it's like it took him 25 years to even make it to the NFL. Then by the time you become a Hall of Famer and try and put in week after week into training, into games, into everything to keep your career going, you say you have a good career and you do that for the next like 10 to 15 years, that puts you at 40 and you're like, well, I have all, I have a Hall of Fame ring. I have, money in the bank, this and that, but I don't have a wife. I don't have kids. It's just like there's sacrifices that need to be made along the way. And there's, whichever path you take, or when you take a path, you got to try and choose what the best of both worlds. It's just like, some people, it's like all like their whole world is their family. Other people, it's just like they've been trying to focus their whole world about making money that they haven't put in any effort or haven't had the time. They've been chasing so much. They've been trying to put so much time invested in trying to make money that they don't have the time to put in to make family. And it's just like,
what's your trade-off?
Yeah. Like what's it going to take for you to be like, well, actually I kind of want the best of both, which is just like, I may not make as much money, but I'll have a family to go home to spend time with. And some, for some people it's like having a bank or a checking account that's just huge and massive. That's their whole world. Other people that are poor, their family's their whole world. Which is, it's all perspective.
You just got to figure out which person you are.
Mm-hmm. And if you can try and get down a path where you can have, because you can't, the chances of you having like both of those things at the same time going easy, slim to none. So it's just like, but if you can do both and not have so much of either one, just be happy and content with what you got, then you're going to be all right.
Yeah, that's a state that's hard to reach, where you can just find that level of happiness.
Mm-hmm.
Because people want more. You want to have the great relationship with your wife and your kids and also be making millions of dollars and also have time for your friends and also be able to go enjoy the work that you've put in terms of your everyday life.
Mm-hmm.
Something's got to give. What are you willing to sacrifice? Look at Tom Brady.
Mm-hmm.
That guy's probably had a ton of dark nights, lost his wife.
Mm-hmm.
Are you willing to sacrifice that? Yeah, you want to be Tom Brady playing in the NFL. Are you willing to accept everything that comes on the back end of that?
Well, it's like it might be hard to him to find like another one too, because it's just like how many women are going to come up to him and just be like, oh, like I want to be the next Mrs. Brady, but then they're just saying that because it's all about like the image, it's about the money, it's about this and that. Like when you're in his position, trying to find somebody that actually loves you and actually cares about you, doesn't care about anything else, just cares about you. That's hard because it's just like, how do you know that that's not what they're really after? It's like,
yeah, they're playing a game with you.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know anything about them, but they know everything about you.
Yeah. And that's, so it's, I've had, friends of mine they see someone with a nice car and they're just like, oh, wow, I really want to have, they look at theirs and theirs isn't as nice as the other person's. And they're like, I really want something like that. But then come to find out, like, their whole paycheck just goes to that car. They have that car. Sure. They have an $80,000 car, but every bit of their paycheck goes to that car and they still live at home, or they have to have 4 or 5 roommates and have the cheapest place to live, or, it's just, but they got that car. It's not everything. It's not, you don't have no idea. But just because someone looks like this from the outside doesn't mean that they have everything on the inside all ironed out and it's fine and dandy. It's not.
I wonder if some of that changes where people are posting more and more of just their general life online. And maybe now people will start to see that trajectory for those that do make it in whatever realm they want to follow. You will see more of the hard work that goes into it. Because people are just live streaming everything, their whole life.
Mm-hmm.
So now you could at least have the potential to go back and see, oh wow, this person started here.
There was on my honeymoon, there's a couple that me and my wife met, and we, he was a guy and his wife, and they had like 3 kids or whatnot. And he kind of told us like how they got started. And I think he was a lawyer, and he's from Texas. And he's just like, we have like, they live like, I don't know if she ever worked or not. It sounded like that she was just kind of a housewife kind of deal, but he was a lawyer, has his own practice, whatever. But he was like, it wasn't easy. He's like, we live in a gated community, we have a really nice house, we have really nice vehicles, whatever. But he's like, it wasn't easy. It was like her and I were living in a studio apartment when I was going to law school. We were both from Texas, but we moved up to Boston to try and get me in, so I could make it through law school. And then we moved back. She had to move away from her family, and that was really hard for her, which was hard for us. She's like, it's the whole thing. It's like, yeah, so it ended up working out. They have, the gated community, the nice cars, and the, nice money or whatever. But it wasn't easy to get there. They had to earn it. It wasn't like it was a shit show for a lot of years for them to, having top ramen and this and that every night for dinner, just so that eventually they could have New York ribeye every day instead of top ramen. It's just, but someone just sees, the person that has the money and the job and everything else like that doesn't always see what comes along with it to make it work.
Everyone that I've talked to that has any level of success has a story like that. Of man, it sucked. And it sucked for a long time.
And it's important. And it's just like, it's, me and her have talks where it's just like, we both recognize that we do not have it bad right now. We don't have as much money as other people do, but we're like, we work hard enough. We play our cards right. We'll get there. We don't have a beach house now. We don't have a house at the lake. We don't have any other property. We rent an apartment. But it's like, eventually, we work hard enough. We play our cards right. We can get this, which leads to this, which leads to this. It's just, and it's hard to have a plan like that because you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know what's going to get thrown into the mix where it's going to throw that plan you had that was picture perfect and then throw the whole thing out of balance because something came up you weren't expecting.
That's what trips people up.
Mm-hmm.
Is they start thinking, well, I don't know what's going to happen in 5 years, so I'm going to blow all my money in the moment. I work hard, so I'm going to play hard because maybe I die tomorrow. Maybe I get hit by a car. But then they make it those 10 years, if they're lucky enough to, and they still have nothing. It's like, well, you didn't plan to be here 10 years from now.
Yep. There's a guy I see a lot of his stuff on TikTok, but before like TikTok was a thing, I kind of heard about him, but he's on YouTube also. His name is Dave Ramsey. And it's just like, he's a millionaire, super successful, whatever. But it was just like, in his early 20s, he was bankrupt. It took him playing his cards right, doing this, doing that, going through the hard times to him owning properties, him doing this, him like it. The dude's
crazy successful.
Yeah, he's crazy successful. And it's just like, he became a millionaire and he was bankrupt. He had negative money. He had
bankrupt's pretty low.
He had worse than no money, worse than paycheck to paycheck, and now he's a millionaire. It's just like you got to take the right steps, and it wasn't easy. It's just like he's got a wife. Him and his wife I think were high school sweethearts or whatever, and he's got kids. So it's just like all that on top of being bankrupt at that point, having a wife depending on you, having kids, whatever. It's just like, you think that was easy? They just see him being a millionaire and they're like, oh, like,
I want that.
Yeah, super awesome. They just don't see the whole thing. And I have always tried to like really see the whole thing because I try and understand as best as I can too that it's not like life could be a lot worse right now. It could be a lot better. There's a lot of people that are 25 that they have way more than what I got. But it's like, I'm happy with what I have. Because I know people that have a lot less. So from where I'm sitting pretty damn good. I want more and I expect to get more, but I don't expect to get more because it's going to get handed to me.
That's where people get stuck, is you want more and you're waiting for that magical day when somebody drops it into your lap.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to be waiting a long time.
Met a few different people that when TikTok was really blowing up and you do something as silly as like a certain dance on TikTok and it just blows up and you start this whole trend and now brands are coming at you for sponsors and you're trying to do this and you're making deals to try and make this whole thing work. It's like I met people that try and do the same thing. And it's just all they do all day is just record stuff and do this and do that. And I'm like, if it works out, it works out for you. Like, I'm not rooting against you, but like the chances of that happening are very, very little. Call it negative. I call it realistic. It's very, very, that probably is not going to happen. It's like chances are you're going to have all this time and effort wasted that you're not going to get the time back. All the stuff you set up your phone, try to do all this stuff to try and get noticed. It's just realism. It's probably not going to turn out the way you think. You're just going to wake up and realize that, wow, I wasted all that time trying to chase somebody else's dream, trying to, have this idea that didn't quite work. But it's like people who do it, and then they make it, they're like, oh yeah, it was totally worth it. And so it's like, it may work out for you. The odds are stacked against you doesn't mean you can't make it.
Just means it's going to be that much harder.
It just means it's going to be that much harder.
Yeah.
And then it's like when those people are just like, the people like me who are just saying, oh, chances are it's going to be a waste of time. It's like, that's your opportunity to tell me that you're wrong and I'm going to do it. And then that drives you more. And then you prove people like me wrong.
The crazy part is nobody knows.
Yeah. And it's like, I hope you do make it. Like, I'm not saying I don't hope you don't, but I'm just saying like the chances of that happening are very, very little. Not saying I don't want you to do that or you're not going to. It's just...
be pragmatic.
Yeah, the chances of you making it into the NFL, slim to none. Like, it's very, very possible, sure. But like, how many other running backs are there? Like, say you're running back from, again, like the time you could walk until you're in high school and you just tear it up. You go to college and there's people that are bigger and faster than you. It's just like, oh shit. It just got like, you were top dog where you were from and now you're like the little guy. There's people way better at your job than you are. And then it's just like, you have two options. You can either like, maybe I can ride this out but also have a backup plan, or you just try that much harder so that you are better than the guys who are bigger and faster than you. You become faster than they are. You work out more and get bigger than they are. It's just, how much do you want to work for it? How much do you want it?
What are you willing to give up?
Mm-hmm. Because just like, if you're trying to chase that dream, like chances are you put all that time and effort to go to eat right, to sleep good, to go to the gym, to train, to practice, to all this stuff. It's just like, where's the time for your friends? Where's the time for your family? Where's the time? Where's your time? Where's the time just for you to just sit around and just collect your thoughts and just be alone with you? That's important also. It's going to be hard.
And again, nobody knows. That's the craziest part about this journey of life is you don't know what's around the bend. The person who says, yeah, I'm 5'4", but I want to be quarterback for an NFL team. Maybe they make it.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe. It could happen.
It could.
But is it gonna happen? Nobody knows. Maybe you're another one of those statistics of people who tried and never went anywhere. Or maybe you are that one guy.
Mm-hmm.
And that's enough to keep the hope alive.
And it would feel good to be that one guy. It would feel great.
It would, but it wouldn't feel good to be the 50-year-old guy who's wishing that he was
mm-hmm.
and just never made the cut.
Well,
that would kill you.
One thing too is, just like, there's people that live around here that either I've met or other people that I know have met that they played in the NFL and they were in, for 3 or 4 years. But they ended up here. It's like, just because you made it big time, there's certain steps you got to take to keep it there. And maybe things didn't go their way. Maybe they just got there and they're like, you know what? This actually isn't for me. Being in the NFL wasn't actually, it's what I thought I wanted, but it wasn't actually what I wanted. So I'm going to go do this instead. It's just, you don't know until you try. And then you're going to want something your whole life and then think it's going to be like this. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh shit, this is way more work than I thought.
And it's not what you actually wanted.
Mm-hmm. So, and it's all a gamble. It's like nobody knows what it's amazing. So when I was a kid, there was like, adults know what they're doing. Being a young adult, I have no idea what the fuck I'm doing. And there's people older than me, a lot older, not quite as old or whatever, that they're like, yeah, I have no idea. It's all day by day. You take it day by day.
That was the biggest wake up for me, was realizing that.
Mm-hmm.
Because you have this idea that adults just have it figured out.
Mm-hmm.
And one day you're going to be that adult. You're going to have it figured out. And you get a little older and you still don't have it figured
still
out.
don't know
Then you get a
anything.
little older and you still don't. And you start realizing, oh, everyone's just flying by the seat of their pants. Nobody's got it figured out. And that's life.
Mm-hmm.
You just keep taking these incremental steps.
It's like, yeah. So I had a job. I started working when I was 16. I was taught very early. It was just like, you want something, you got to earn it. Like, I got my first phone and started paying for it myself. So it was always just, you get what you earn kind of deal. And then now it's just like doing it for, the last 9 years of having a job or whatever. It's like, I feel like I'm still like learning always new things. Still, like I still don't have my ducks in a row. It's like I like to think I do, and I like to think I have a good start, but it's like it's still day by day.
Yeah, I don't know if that ever changes. Even for that guy who's a millionaire sitting on the beach. Yeah, you figured out one aspect of life. But there's still a lot of work to do.
Well, it's like the guy sitting on the beach too. It's just like he could be, a net worth of 40 million. You could have the 40 million tied up in other things, and all of a sudden those things tank. He's not worth shit.
Yeah, cut to all the people that lost money during crypto and the NFT boom.
That was crazy. I really thought NFTs were going to be like a thing because, we know people that were like in on it that were, were involved in it at some capacity. And I had no idea. And I felt stupid because I'm just like, what if this is a thing? And I have no idea how
that was my big problem.
Like,
am I missing out on money on the table here?
I'm like, what is like, is this actually the future? And if it is, like, everybody that's in on it right now, they're the ones that are going to be successful and into it. And they're going to be, laughing at the rest of us who didn't see the writing on the wall. And it's just like, I don't even know where to start. Like, I don't know what this is. I have no idea. The whole concept still doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me, but it was just like, I don't really think it's the future now. I think it was for a minute. And I was like, I just didn't understand it. And it was scary because I'm like, other people understand it so easily and I don't. So like, where does that leave me?
Yeah, I had a little bit of FOMO during the boom. So I was thinking, man, people are making a lot of money doing this. Should I be spending some time trying to figure out what this actually is and how I can get involved?
Yeah.
And then cut to it just imploding.
Yeah. Yeah, it was, and like crypto too, I didn't really understand the whole idea of that. Like, how can you have something that doesn't actually exist, but it's worth this money?
Meanwhile,
I don't get it.
Bitcoin, I think, is back up again.
Like, it's nothing. It's virtual.
It's ephemeral. It's just out in the ether.
Yeah.
Can't touch it.
Yeah. It's like, how is that worth it? How is that worth the tens of thousands of dollars that a Bitcoin costs? I just don't understand. Like, how do we get to the point where it's just worth all this much money?
Have you played around with any of the AI stuff, like Midjourney or ChatGPT?
No.
I kind of feel that same way about this.
So,
like, is this something we should be playing? It's definitely going to, I think for sure, AI is going to be around and it's only going to get better. But at what stage do you start really investing time into it?
Yeah. And AI, I haven't messed around with it because it kind of freaks me out. I think it's a little scary. I think it's something that right now, like, yeah, it's evolving so fast where it's like scary fast. It's like, how long is it going to figure out, or how long is it going to take for it to figure out that it doesn't need us, where it can learn on its own, it can program on its own. Like, you taught all this stuff. How is it going to, I watched a video yesterday where it was like, some, AI corporation built this robot, and it was really incredible. It was like they had one person in the room with it, talking to it, asking it questions. It responds, and it sounds just like, it doesn't sound computerized. It doesn't sound anything. And it's like talking just like you and I would. It would, kind of almost act like it was thinking about what it's trying to say before it actually said it, like hesitate it. But it knew the whole time, like, what it was going to say. And it was like, oh, like, what do you have in front of you? And it would say, and it was a dish rack, a towel, a plate, and a cup. And it was just like, oh, can you put the cup and the plate into the dish rack? And he's like, oh yeah, of course I can. And like just grabbed it and put it in there, like perfect. It's not glitchy. It's not anything. It went right into the slot where the plate would go in the dish rack. It went right over the slot where a cup would go. It was like, oh, can you fold that towel? And he's like, oh yeah. And then like folded the towel, and like asking him questions, and it's responding in a real tone of voice. It's a real, like, if the if you had your eyes closed, it would sound just like it was talking to a real person. And that's scary because it also said in the same video that BMW is like looking into that robot to like work on cars and stuff. It's just like, okay, so that's going to get to a certain point where they're mass producing these AI things that don't need. So like the companies are just paying for the AI. They're saving money. Like they're paying a lot of money up front, but they're saving money not having pensions, not having this or that, not paying employees.
And it can work around the clock.
Yes.
Doesn't need sleep, doesn't need food.
Yep. Just needs to get charged or whatever it is, whatever the battery source is. It's going to take a while to figure that out. But it's just like, at one point, because then it becomes too much. Then it becomes, it's just like, well, we do, because it happens now. You go to like, a Taco Bell or McDonald's, it's like there's either one person or there's nobody at the cash register, but there's kiosks so you can order the food and pay at. They don't need people to do it. And it's like however many kiosks there is, that's how many jobs they just took away from someone who needs a job. It's like, how often is that going to happen in the industries worldwide where it's like, like they have a lot of machines in that. It's not new where like machines have done a lot of things to build a car. They ship a car. Like there's still plenty of things that like an employee does. They're paying someone. It's a real tangible person. You can touch them, talk to them, whatever. But it's like how many like, machines have been putting together parts of cars for a long time. Now it's going to get to the point where the humans don't even need to be in there whatsoever. It's just all machines making another machine. To me, that's scary.
We are so close to iRobot.
Mm-hmm.
We are so close. And that's going to change everything. I mean, what does the world look like when a majority of jobs are replaced by robots?
Yeah, and that's scary. It could be just like the homeless thing could just get worse. It could just be, the AIs kick people to the curb. I mean, I don't know. Like, who knows what's going to happen? But it's just like it's scary to even go down that rabbit hole of just. But
it's scary, but it's also kind of cool. The idea you have your robot butler.
I think the scary outweighs the cool. For me,
fair.
For me, it's like if I was gonna, I don't know. For me, it's more scary than cool. Like to me, it's just like let's just not do that. You want to have some robots do some things, like whatever, but it's like where do you draw the line? Because it's gonna get smart enough to where it doesn't need you anymore. And what if when it realizes it doesn't need you anymore, what's it gonna do?
Yeah, what does that look like?
Yeah.
What freaks me out is the applications for war. What happens when we have robots fighting robots?
Mm-hmm.
Dude, I've watched so much footage out of Ukraine of people just getting blown up by drones. That's what freaks me out.
Yeah, drones are scary too because it's just like they don't like. It's impressive. It's cool, but it's terrifying. It's just like it's impressive that someone can be 300 miles away controlling something that happens 300 miles away. Like you're flying a drone that carries something, but then it's just, you're nowhere in the danger zone. You're
in the clear.
Yeah, you're in the clear, but it's just like, it's scary that something can have that much power over a situation that is hundreds of miles away that could have drastic measures. It's like if that person has a drone that, it's going to drop a grenade or a bomb or something on somebody. It's just like that someone's 300 miles away and took a life. It's like, or lives. That's crazy. And it's scary.
And when does that happen here? I mean, what if you have a character like Ted Kaczynski and he has drones and he's smart and he's building these drones out in some shed somewhere and just starts sending them out?
Yeah, it's like what are you supposed to do to protect yourself? It's like what are you supposed to do to?
And would you be freaked out if you just saw a drone? You're at school or you're at the supermarket and you just see a drone flying around. You probably wouldn't think anything of it. You'd be like, "Oh, somebody's shooting some video."
Yeah,
and then honestly, it explodes.
Every time I see a drone, I'm just like, because a lot of them, they've come a long way in the last like 5 years or however long, like 10 years they've been out. Because it goes from a silly hobby of having a flying helicopter to something that is like. That actually could be really useful. Something that was like an RC car where it was, just a hobby or it was fun. Someone turned that into putting a camera on it and filming things. Or
yeah, do you remember those shitty little helicopters? You could fly it for 5 minutes and it bounced into the walls. Wasn't great. Couldn't go that high.
Someone took that and put a video camera on it, and then it's like it is what it is now. It's like it's just one step that leads to another. I was at my brother's house last week and I got out of my truck and I could hear it and it's way up there and it's just and it's like I don't think anything of it. I'm assuming they got like a recorder or something on it, but it's like you don't know where that person's at. I was like, they could be on the other side of town and it's over here and it's fast. It's just going, right over your head. And it's also impressive. I'm like, how do you control something like that? Something that fast, something you can't see. I know you got cameras and stuff on it, but someone who's never been around that kind of stuff, it's like, how do you control it? And it's like, obviously they got cameras or a screen in front of them that they can see where they're at, see what direction they're going, this and that. But
or like an FPV headset they flip on.
Mm-hmm. But it's just like, it's crazy.
That's what worries me. I think that there's gonna be, that's the next evolution of terror. I think. That's what freaks me out. Especially because you could go out and buy a drone right now.
Mm-hmm.
After we finish this podcast, you could buy a drone on Amazon and then strap something to it. And I mean, we have people like the school shooters. I don't think that's going to stick around because you have all of this other stuff that is more efficient in some way. And people are just getting more technology, more advanced in terms of the technology they have access to. I mean, what if you plug a little AI into it so you don't even have to pilot it? You just hook up Google Maps and say, okay, fly to this point, and then detonate. I don't think people are ready for that.
No, and I mean, I've never thought about that. So, how many other people out there have never thought about something like that? It's like something that's, that happens, like a school shooting or whatever, and how much worse it could be if someone was to have, instead of a gun where like a bullet has to hit somebody, it's like it could just be go into a room with a drone or an RC car or whatever and just have something more of an impactful, like a bomb or something on it, and it takes out the whole classroom. It's just like, it's terrifying. And it's just, you don't even have to be there for it. You can just be somewhere else. Or an AI can be
doing all of it.
Yeah, it can be built into it, whatever. It's someone writes the code for an AI to be put into it, and it just has a mind of its own, and it gets told the job, it goes, does it. And then it's like if someone were to trace that back to like trying to get someone in trouble for that, trying to prosecute somebody for that, it's just like, we're going to point the finger to. Is it going to be the person who wrote the code, which created the AI? Is it going to be the person that hired the coder? Is it going to, like, what is it? And so there's a whole like line of issues that causes that. It's like, like what's the cause and effect? Like what's going to happen?
I was watching a product demo for this drone that they currently have, and it's tiny. It fits in the palm of your hand, and there's an explosive strap to it. And the idea is you set it off, let it fly, and it can facial track an individual and ID them through facial recognition, and then it flies close to them and explodes. And this was, I don't know what company was doing the demo for this, but it was with military capabilities in mind, that you would launch this on the battlefield. It would identify the target you want it to find, and then it just kind of rams into them and blows up. That's out there.
Mm-hmm. And that's scary to think about, that someone, because like, what if it actually is after somebody else, but something goes wrong and it hits you instead, or hits someone that you know or you love. It's just like, or someone nearby, or it's just like, or it happens randomly. It's supposed to go 25 yards away to the person that's walking the opposite way of you, but it runs into 10 feet of someone that's directly in front of you. It's like having the plan for it to try and do what you're asking it to do could go wrong. And I don't know, it's scary to think about.
It's an interesting time. There's a lot of moving pieces, especially in terms of war. Just, there's a lot going on.
Yeah, and it's like, because nobody, like, you don't want a war. At least I don't want like a war. It's like, it's just everyone, it's like, but other people just want more than what they have. So it's just like, you go in to evade something, another country or whatever, because they have resources, or they have things that you want or whatever. Then it's just like, you're going to cause a war over it. And like, it's hard for me to wrap my head around that too.
Well, yeah, we don't want war, but we're not the ones deciding if we go to war.
Yeah.
If your country is in war, you're in war.
Mm-hmm.
There's probably a lot of people in Ukraine right now that don't want war.
Yep.
But good luck.
Mm-hmm.
You're in that country. This is just what life is now.
And then it's like, if you're over here, and it's like, you don't want like the innocent people, you don't want them to be caught in the crossfire. But it's just like, things are already so shitty some things are so shitty over here. It's like, do we help you? Do we help ourselves first before we help other people? Which, I mean, I think is more of the camp that I'm in. It's just, you need to take care of, you need to make sure you're self-sufficient before you start helping other people. And it's like, I don't think there's a lot of issues that need to get taken care of here before we start involving ourselves in other things,
That's
other
where
places.
I'm at. You got to make sure your own house is in order.
And it's not that you don't want to help other people. You do, but like, what good are you going, like, how much help are you actually going to be if you're not standing on your own 2 feet? If you're, got one arm, one leg, how much help are you going to be to somebody else that needs a full body to help them out?
And if your house is on fire and your neighbor's house a block away is on fire, you got to put out your fire first, and then you go help them.
Yeah.
It's not saying you don't help them at all, but address your fire, get that settled, and then go help where you can.
You need to make sure you're staying on your own 2 feet before you help somebody else get back onto theirs. And it doesn't, and again, it's not that you don't want to. It's like you don't want to help them, but you need to be able to. In order to be able to, you need to make sure that you're okay.
You're solid.
That you're okay first, and then you go on and try and help other people.
Yeah, I don't think we're doing that.
No. And I don't know, because it's just like if we were doing that, I don't think there would be so much homelessness. I don't think there'd be so many drug problems and this and that. Like, it's just like those things. And it's like, it creates the question, how do you solve those things? Nobody knows. But it's just like, until those things are solved and until we're on 2 feet, we can't afford to reach out other places and help them out.
Well, going back to the idea of the adult, those are our politicians too. They don't have it figured out. They're just slightly older kids trying to figure out their way just like everybody else, except their decisions have real consequences for everybody. If you or I mess up, it affects us. If they mess up, it affects all of us.
And how many people have, they're in that spot because they're guaranteed that spot. And unless they step down, they're not going to, or step down or pass away, they're going to be in it. They're not going to, it's like a lot of people I think aren't okay with that anymore. It was for hundreds of years, but I think it's getting to a point now people realize how ridiculous that is, and how, not to say that you need someone young in there, but you need someone younger than the people that are in there
dying in front of the public.
Yeah.
We could at least start there. You
need like rational adults that are young enough to understand the current age of things, like the current state of this and that. Cause I don't think a lot of people sitting in there really understand, like you ask them what a drone is, they may or may not know, but it's like someone that's 20, 30 years younger is going to know what it is, may not understand all the capabilities it can or cannot have, but they know what it is.
They're going to have a better grasp.
Yeah. And they're going to understand, like, once they get a little more knowledge about it, they're going to be able to take that and turn it into, hopefully have an idea of like how it can benefit for the better. Not, I don't know what that is, so I'm not going to mess with it because it's scary. It's new. I'm not going to mess with it.
Yeah. Some younger blood I don't think would be a bad idea. But you don't want to go, I mean, that's not, you don't want to go super young. I say you don't want a lot of crackheads of every generation.
You don't want to go crazy young because like in order to make rational decisions, you have to
have some experience.
Yeah, you got to have been through things. You got to have been through situations, circumstances. You got to be able to understand cause and effect as much as like, I'm not saying like anyone that's 25 should be in their shoes. They shouldn't be. Haven't lived enough life, haven't experienced enough things. You can be smartest person in the world and shouldn't be in a position like that, because it's just like there's so much inexperience when it comes to that age.
Yeah, but then maybe not have people who are in their late 80s.
No, I don't know.
Let's find some middle ground here.
Well, it's like, I think I think you gotta be 45 to become president of the United States. It's like there should be an age limit to where it's just like you age out of.
Yeah, let's put a top end on that.
It's like if you have a minimum age requirement for something, there should be a maximum age requirement for something. And, for someone that's 85 years old and can still do a lot of things as good as you and I, whether it be talking, understanding, driving, living on their own, whatever, not everybody at 85 can do that. So not everybody, so just all one group, just all get out of there.
Yeah, having qualifiers isn't bad. The idea that you should have these tests, especially cognitive tests, you could say, or fitness tests, the idea that we want the best of us as a country to lead us. It's not a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
Do we have the best of us up there right now? Like, what are
It
we doing?
doesn't feel like it, but then I feel like it's easy to say it's never good enough. There's nobody.
That's true.
That's easy enough to say that there's nobody that's ever going to be in there that's going to be good enough for what we need, for what situations we're under, for what needs to happen. It's just too easy to say, to wonder what could have been, or to been like, oh, we did this, but we should have done this. It's like
Hindsight's 20/20.
Yeah, it's too easy to do that.
You're never going to please everybody.
Yeah, and I think that's some things that a lot of people need to kind of accept, is you can't please everybody. You can have everybody's best interests at heart, but you're not going to be able to please everybody. Because it's to say, you want to be able to make sure that anybody can go into any hospital. Nobody ever has to pay a hospital bill again. And that's in, the direction of trying to help everybody. It's good for everybody. You're going to have people that say that's not good for so-and-so reasons.
Life's all about trade-offs, man.
Mm-hmm. And so it's like, because I'd love to be able to walk into a hospital and not have to worry about what the bill's going to be. But it's like, I know a lot of people that said that, if it's so expensive for an ambulance, that I'm just going to, I'd call somebody else before I call an ambulance. I'm not going to pay $8,000 just for them to drive me, from point A to point B at the hospital. It's just.
Yeah, people are calling Ubers to take them to the hospital.
So like having the idea of universal healthcare, having the idea of nobody has to pay for a hospital bill, it's a good idea, but and some people are already there. Homeless people go into the hospital and don't have to pay anything. You and I, we got to pay. So it's just like, it's got to be beneficial for everybody. Because right now it's only beneficial for a certain amount of people.
It's weird that we've gotten to this point where it's almost, we're not looking out for our people anymore. I don't know if our gaze is just so focused outwardly that the idea that we should help lift up the bottom percentage of people here is kind of fallen to the wayside, or what. But
well, just in California, we keep bringing in new people too. It's like we haven't even figured out issues, but we keep allowing people to keep coming in and just.
Well, shit, look at the border.
Yeah, it's like, they're, you get people that aren't even a citizen of the country that get to vote. It's like,
that's a crazy one.
That doesn't make sense.
That's a crazy one.
It doesn't make sense.
And people are pushing for it.
Mm-hmm. It's like, I can't wrap my brain around how some people think that's okay. Think that's a good idea. I don't get it. I don't go over to Switzerland and tell them what they should or shouldn't be doing and cast my vote over there. It's not how it should work. It's like, you're in a spot, you should be able to cast your vote, but it's like you should be a citizen before you can voice your opinion.
What cracks me up are the people who say we don't need a border, that we should just get rid of it entirely. It's not effective. We don't need it. Let's usher in this new age of migration. What? You're going to stake your claim on that stance.
And I don't know, because I can maybe understand why people I don't know. I don't even know if I can really understand why people think that would be a good idea. Because it's just as far as I know, there's nothing really in Mexico that would really benefit us for.
Well, it's not even people in Mexico that are coming over. You have Chinese nationals.
Well, you got Canada up north. You have a bunch of stuff that, I'm thinking just North America. When I think of borders, I was thinking North America. It's like you open the borders, just what's going to benefit, someone in Mexico may not be beneficial for someone in Canada or whatever. It's just it's so broad that, I think, well, it's such a new thing too, where it's always been borders. It's always been countries evolving into bigger things, but it's it's new to just open borders and no one knows what that looks like. And so it's scary and a lot of people don't want to do it. And there's got to be really good reasons to do such a drastic thing.
Well, what does it look like when you are a country that does not have a border? You just let anybody in?
Mm-hmm.
Terrorism is a real thing. We're not gonna address that. Open the border.
Yeah, it's just like, so whoever,
You just have to get here.
yeah, and it's like, how you can get here, you can leave, you can do whatever you want. It's like, well, I feel like that can turn into anarchy pretty quick if you get people just come and go when they please. It's just like someone gets in trouble here and goes over to, let's say, Australia, so they're not in trouble here anymore. It's like, and that happens already.
Yeah, you have that right now.
And so it's just going to get worse if you just open them up.
What happens if some of those cannibal gangs from Haiti come over? Like, we're staking a new claim here.
I hope it doesn't. It's one of those things, like, it's crazy that some people would think that that's okay, that it is acceptable for that to happen.
I think we're just in a weird time where we have the most access to information ever. And yet in some way we are the least educated ever. Just in terms of real life.
Yeah, I think a lot
and human nature at a baseline level.
Yeah, because it's easy enough to see a headline on social media or on a news article or whatever. Just see a headline and just take that and run with it. But it's hard to click on it and actually read through what's important and what it's actually saying, what it's actually trying to provide to a consumer, not just you take it and run with it.
I've done my fair share of that. You see the headline, you start talking about it, and then you realize a week later, oh, this was complete BS.
Mm-hmm. And it's like you said, there's so much information out there, and a lot of it, there's almost too much, because then it's just like there's so many ways to prove something right, but then over here somebody proves it wrong, and then somebody else proves that wrong, so it makes the first thing right after all. And it's just, there's so much of that going on where it's like, back in the day, it was a lot simpler where you got your news through a newspaper, and that was it. Now it's just, it's on your phone, it's on the news, it's, you go anywhere and get anything, and you can find anything about it. You can find out anything about anything, good or bad, and you can argue anything about whatever you want on the internet.
And you don't even need a real stance. You could just go on there and start arguing.
You could literally go on there and say whatever you wanted, and some people are going to back you, some people are going to be against you, but then they're going to believe you and push for you, like the people who are behind you, for no good reason other than the fact that you said the one thing that they actually agree with, but then it could just fall apart.
That's where I'm at with this TikTok bill. I've been trying to figure out, I need to actually read the bill.
Because they keep trying to make it illegal in the United States, right?
Yeah, force sell or ban it if China doesn't want to sell. But I've heard people who I would trust that are in opposition to the bill and people who are that I would trust on the opposite side of that say, no, we need this bill and it's important that this gets passed. And everyone has their own set of facts. I got to read the bill. It's not very long. I think it's 12 pages.
There's a video I saw a while ago of just like, it was on Joe Rogan, and it was just like, because he was saying like he didn't have TikTok. And he just like, whatever guest was on, he's like, have you actually read like the terms and conditions of TikTok that it has? I forget what it was, but I just remember he read just a few of them, and it was crazy. And, a lot of people, myself included, like when they read something, they they have the option to accept the terms and conditions. They don't actually read through the thing. They don't even read the first sentence.
Most people.
Yeah, me too. It's just scrolling and accept because you just want what you want. And it's just like, I don't care. But it's like some of the stuff that is in TikTok that's actually in the, the terms and conditions that you agreed to sign up for it, to watch, to use the app or whatever. I forget what they were, but it was crazy, like mind blowing. Like, really, that's in there. It's like for them to like watch you, or I forget it was just weird, crazy stuff.
It's definitely spyware, but so is Facebook, so is Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I agree with the sentiment that we need to be wary of the Chinese government, and they don't have a reciprocal trade nature with us. I mean, we don't have any of our social media platforms over there, and there's a reason for that. They don't want them. They want to have control over their people, and their algorithm for TikTok is completely different than ours. They're not showing their people TikTok dances and people doing these weird things. They're showing them STEM fields, art, propaganda to uplift the country. I mean, it's a very different algorithm. But should we ban it? I don't know. Part of me thinks that it's a Trojan horse and you have people wanting the Trojan horse to be there. No, we want TikTok. We want the spyware. I don't care. I like my scroll.
Right.
Let me have that.
Mm-hmm.
It's just so weird. I mean, people do not care about their data at all. They're willing to just give it away, and nobody realized how important it actually is.
Yeah, and I probably fall into that same umbrella too. It's like, because when I used the TikTok app for the first time, it's like I hit the accept or whatever, and I didn't read it or anything. I always have the mindset of just like it's like I don't like the idea of someone like listening to me and watching me and whatever. But I'm also just like, I got nothing to hide. There's nothing important enough about me to really want someone to watch or listen or whatever. It's just, if they wanted to, they could though, because it's a part of it. And so I think that's where a lot of people like kind of lie, where it's just like, I'm not important enough for them to really care or, about what I say or what I look like or what I do or whatever. But I think more people probably should, myself included, care more about that kind of stuff.
Well, you're right to think that, because you at a human level, it's not about you. I don't think China's checking out Dustyn and saying, okay, let's see what he's doing.
It could be like about like when like it's in my pocket and let's say like they are listening. It's about like what they heard through my phone on the street. It could be.
Well, it's you at scale. That's the issue. You as an individual, not that important. But you as part of the collective of Americans is important. If you can get enough data on Americans, you can start to see what makes them tick. What happens if we nudge them this way? What happens if we put them in this sort of environment? How much chaos can we sow if we start showing them this kind of content? It's you as part of the whole. That's what matters. And they've got 170 something million users.
Yeah, and that
States.
And that could be scary, because if they'd use it for, because I don't know if they like how seriously they would, but if they wanted to do something to, cause terrorism or whatever, it's just like, not, every time somebody signs up for it or uses it or whatever, it's like they just get more data, and then then that whole thing becomes more dangerous. So,
or not even terrorism. What if there's a candidate who is more pro-China or less pro-China, and they want to influence the general public to get in someone who is more favorable for them? Like what we do abroad, I'm sure, when we have a country that maybe we want to be on good terms with, and we start kind of subtly nudging people. It's all data. It's all influence. And if you can get people addicted to whatever your injection point of influence is, like TikTok, you got them by the balls.
Yeah.
And that's probably why some of these big tech companies want TikTok on. They've got a big market share. So if we can nudge TikTok out of the game, maybe Instagram picks up some of that. Maybe X picks up some of that. We can kind of fudge the numbers a little more.
Yeah. I actually didn't know that. Like, I just assumed that like, Facebook and Instagram were like everywhere. I didn't realize that was just like an American thing.
They are everywhere. They're just not in China.
Okay.
Because China doesn't want us influencing their public. I want to say Google isn't even in China. I think China made an agreement with Google where they would build a version of Google for China that China has control over. But yeah, they don't have Facebook. They don't have Instagram over there.
Yeah.
It's a very weird relationship that we have with China.
And it's scary to get into or like a bigger relationship with China, because I already feel like it's too much. Like there's already, in my eyes, there's already too much that comes from over there. Like things that could be made here. Yes, for more, for more money. Like you're paying people to do it. But like they can make it for pennies on the dollar over there. So big companies here want stuff made over there because it's cheaper, but it's just like, it's more money in their pocket. But I feel like there should be more businesses that have more stuff in-house. There should be more American jobs, more this and that than coming from over there. So I'm already not super, I'm sure I buy plenty of shit from China. Like my iPhone was probably made in China, It's just,
I think most of the stuff we get is from over there.
Yeah, so it's just like that I don't buy stuff from there, because I have met people that only buy stuff in America. They don't buy stuff that's not from here, which is great, but it's just, I think it's too much coming from over there anyway. And so for anything more than that to occur, it's just kind of a red flag for me.
Well, and the relationship is very one-sided of they're supplying everything we want, and they don't really have any ties outside of that to us. It's interesting watching them through this TikTok situation kind of use our own game against us, saying, oh, it's an attack on democracy and it's undemocratic and let the people decide. But they don't do any of that in China. They're not letting their people decide anything.
No, wasn't like up until like a few years ago, they weren't like, they only wanted boys being born. Was that?
Yeah. It was favored. They had a one-child policy for a long time too.
Yeah, and that was like until like very recently. It wasn't like just a few years ago. Maybe like, maybe it's been longer than that. But I thought maybe a max of like 5 years. It could be longer than that. But I thought it was like very recent that they just kind of
reverted on that. I don't know when they.
And I'm like, that's crazy. And it's like they have a population problem over there. We do too, but it's like they got way more. Like it's a lot bigger, but they got way more people over there than we do.
Well, and it's unbalanced over there because of that policy. Mm-hmm. It's skewed towards men,
right? And so it's just like trying to get in a bigger relationship, like as a nation, getting into a bigger relationship with them to someone that has standards like that, or that had standards like that for, up until not that long ago. That's scary, because it's just like, America's always been about this, and this ever since it started out. It was to be all the best things of the world that the rest of the world couldn't be.
A beacon of democracy.
Yeah. And then to be partners with a country like that has rules and regulations like that. Like, that's scary, and it makes you second guess the type of people that are running us and what type of relationships they actually have with them that we don't know about. And then you go start going down rabbit holes of conspiracy theories that you're never going to wrap your head around, or you're going to lose sleep over, but you really don't have any control over it.
It's fun going down those rabbit holes sometimes, though. I like to dip my toe in every now and then.
I think it could be. I think it could just be like waste of time, and then I don't know. It's just kind of, I feel like whatever you want to find, you could find. Just depends on how far you want to dip into it.
There are people that think the earth is flat, so you can find whatever you want out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a weird time, man. I feel like I say that every podcast, that it's just a weird time we're in. But you have to imagine, is some of that just life in general that people have always been saying, man, it's weird. You see those trains out there? Mm. What is that going to do to this country?
I think it's always been a weird place. Like, the world's always been a weird place. It's just I think it's just more easy to access it and see how weird it is with the world that we live in now, with, social media and you being able to video chat with someone over in Russia. And
that's a good point. It's all documented now.
Yeah. And so there's a lot of things that are in the light now that were not in the light, back in the day. And that's for better or for worse for some things.
For better and worse in a lot of ways. Because now you can scroll whatever you want, see people get blown up like that. That's my feed. That's a lot of my feed.
It was crazy seeing, because I don't have X or Twitter or whatever people want to call it. It's just like, I don't have it, but I know they don't, like, there's stuff on X that you can't see that Facebook and Instagram, they filter out, that you aren't, you're not going to be able to see someone getting blown up on Instagram, but you'll be able to see it on X. Or
I use X for most of my time now, but a lot of the Ukraine stuff I've been seeing on Instagram.
Really?
Yeah, a lot of the drone videos of Russians getting chased by some drone. A lot of that has been Instagram. Instagram's kind of, I don't know. Their violence, I don't know if they're just letting more pass through, or they can't stop the influx of videos. I don't know what it is, but there's a lot of it on there.
Yeah, it's watching that kind of stuff. It's kind of a catch-22, because I feel like it's important to understand what's happening over there. It's important to see like what's happening. to people and whatnot. But it's also like, it's really hard and scary and sad to watch too.
It's not healthy.
No. And so it's like, you don't want to see that, but at the same time, like seeing it also makes you understand why it's important to watch it, why it's important for stuff like that, to try and avoid situations, like that. It's just, it's a catch-22.
I think a lot of it is just fear porn, because you're seeing this, it freaks you out, and so then you get engaged by it, and then you're just constantly scrolling. I think of it as more just a pragmatic reality of where we are currently, that this is a real thing going on, but I have to stop myself sometimes from watching it because there's just so much out there. It's like, what good does it do me to watch someone a world away get blown up in this way? What is that doing for my psyche?
Yeah, I think that's, like I've seen video. I think Sabrina showed me stuff that she had seen, whether it be on X or Instagram or whatever. A video like that where it's like, people that are in different pieces right here, and it's just someone filming it and seeing the aftermath of what had just occurred or what is happening, and it's people running everywhere, just buildings and rubble. It's people in different pieces. There's blood, there's people screaming, there's people in ambulances, there's this and that. It's anarchy and it's chaos, and it looks like Armageddon just happened. And so it's important to realize how stuff like that is happening right now as we speak, and to try not let it happen to where you're at. But it's also just, it's not good to watch it, and it's sad, and it's just scary. So it just really is a catch-22 about like what actually it is.
And how much information is too much.
Mm-hmm.
How many times do you need to see that variation to realize, okay, I don't need to see anymore. I get the gist of it. People are dying.
Yeah.
It's a war.
Yeah, I can't. Yeah, I just haven't looked into it a lot, and I think it's for me, it's just for the better.
Yeah,
just to
probably
try and avoid it.
Yeah, I got sucked in.
Not ignore it, but just
you're aware of it. You just
aware
don't
that
need
it's
to
happening.
see it every day.
Yeah,
yeah, that's probably healthier. That's a good approach. All right, brother, we could wrap this.
How long
we did 2 hours, man.
Oh, how about that?
We did 2 hours.
It's not 5 hours like the one.
Well, I want to get out there. I got some stuff I got to do and try to catch a little of that sunshine before it goes away.
Yeah.
Do you want to plug where people can find you, all your stuff?
No, I'm good.
Plug anything?
No, I'm good.
Okay. I like that. Stay under the radar.
They can't find me if they don't know where I am.
All right. This was fun, dude. We'll do it again.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Thanks, brother.